All right, welcome back. It is Saturday, January 25th. We have some big news just reported on this Saturday evening. Before we get into it, this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor. Okay, so let's hop right into it. So, big shout out to Financial Juice on X, or formerly known as Twitter. Suggest you give them a follow. Always reporting up to date, relevant information. So, the report is this evening that the China Central Bank injects 151 billion won through a 14-day reverse repo at 1.65, and then as well as lowers the repo rate by 31 basis points. So you're seeing more stimulus come in here, right? And a quick few-minute summary of what's been going on over the past 6 months, right? So if you look back at September, right, China arguably in a recession, crushing real estate market over the past 4 years, right? Since then, the equities, the stock market in China, right, the Hang Seng, Shanghai, lost a ton of value, as well as some interference from the PBOC, right? Jack Ma of Alibaba going missing, cracking down on some of these companies, right? It created an environment where for foreign investors, China for some time there became uninvestable. You couldn't really have faith in what the government was going to do to support the markets. And fast forward now 4 years, coming out of that, right? AI's happened. The government realizes, hey, unemployment's too high. We're not getting out of this real estate crisis just by our own people investing and reinvesting in the environment. So a lot of money is being parked over here in the United States. So with that, the government now realizes that, hey, we gotta kind of put a floor in the market here. So in September, if you remember back there was a lot of stimulus talks, a lot of statements being made. We're going to inject money, and that propped up the market. Some stocks ran 50+% on that news, and that faded over the following months up until December. Okay, we're gonna look at the charts here in a second. So it was all talk. There was really no action. And then over the past several weeks leading up into the election, right, there was a lot of fears of tariffs. Was the Trump administration going to come in and implement tariffs? And since President Trump's taken office in the United States, he's had a call with President Xi Jinping of China. From all the news outlets that I've been covering, it's all been positive. There wasn't a transcript released. So those tariff fears, while they're still a risk, right, it's still out there, they've seemed to fade quite a bit. All right, so now we're 1 week into the President Trump election. Looks like the channels are being opened, the lines of communication are being opened between the governments. And now, in my belief, right, the PBOC sees this as a perfect opportunity to start injecting stimulus. And that's what you're seeing here on the Saturday evening. Another stimulus coming through, right? 151 billion won up into the open markets, right? And they've expressed that they're willing to go into the trillions, right? So what this is going to do, it's going to cause momentum, right? Folks who live in China are not going to want to keep their hard-earned cash buying government bonds at a low rate. Okay, if you remember back to COVID in the United States, right, the stock market was crashing when everybody was getting locked down. And then the Federal Reserve came in and injected liquidity, dropped the interest rates down to practically zero. So buying a car, buying a house, starting a business, everything became cheap. Remodeling your house, anything, people were taking out equity on their homes. So when this happens, right, the central governments can drop the rates and they can inject stimulus by buying government bonds or even buying assets. All right, so you're seeing an injection here on the Saturday evening, another one. All right, following up the ones of the past few weeks. So what they're telling the market is, hey, we're serious. Like, we're not all talk, right? There's a large, very big meeting coming up in March where I firmly believe that there's more stimulus going to come out. So I think they're doing these little stimulus packages here to see what happens and basically to give confidence back. Like, hey, we're setting the floor here. If the market continues to sink, unemployment continues to rise, we're here, we're going to inject money, we're going to support the local governments, and we're going to inject money into the capital markets. So let's see, right? Stock markets are closed. It's Saturday here, Sunday in the Western Asia Pacific. All right, updated the charts here. We're starting with JD, right? A big popular one, e-commerce logistics company, right? So we added Fibonacci line. So let's go back out to the max. All right, so during the COVID run up, right, a lot of stimulus came in. Stock ran to $101, significantly, I would argue, overvalued at the time, and the whole global markets were overvalued at that time. And then going back into the last year, right? So looking down here, we move my chart a little bit. All right, so you see this big run up in September. Price got all the way up to 47.82 USD, and that was all on the stimulus hype. That was just hype, buying the rumors, and then selling the news that it wasn't coming yet. And now we fast forward to the past 3 months, right? A lot of fear in the market. Oh, stimulus is coming, it's not coming. Stimulus is coming, it's not coming. All right, now, right here on this mark right here is where stimulus has actually entered the market. Since then, it's been almost a straight line up and to the right. All right. So my next Fibonacci line right here I have at $43.42. With this new stimulus, I would expect the markets, with barring any other news of tariffs or anything like that, I would expect this run up to maybe fill this gap right here up to 43.42, followed by consolidations. I do not like to make forward-looking statements in the short term, 3 to 6 months. Very hard to tell what's going to happen, but pay attention to your RSI down here. You're getting really overheated, right? RSI is up at 78. I would expect a consolidation back down to the 60s, maybe in the 50s, and then for the next leg up, potentially by some more stimulus. So this could blow off the top right here, and RSI could get up into the 80s, hit that 43.42. Right, so what's going to happen here on the market open on Monday? There's a lot of folks who probably, including myself, took some hedges on their long positions, and we're going to get smoked out of the water here. So Monday morning, you could probably expect the Asian markets to open up, plus 2 or 3%, JD maybe even plus 5%. Now that folks are really like, hey, all right, they set the floor, it should be up and away from here. The other thing on the horizon is earnings, right? A lot of American companies are reporting earnings this week. These Asian companies, these Chinese companies are not usually reporting till February, end of February. So we'll see how the numbers are, but we're expecting about 10% growth here for JD year over year. And this positive momentum is going to create gamma, right? Folks are going to have to cover their short positions. Hype is going to come to the market. Maybe even you get international investors, believing again in this story, in this growth story, a 5+% GDP growth per year. So companies still trading cheap, right? And if they crush earnings, what you're looking at on the right side of the screen here, PE ratio, as I mentioned in my other videos, if you haven't watched those from the past 2 weeks, right, I called it even before this run up. So go back and take a look at those, but these companies are still trading cheap. If they crush earnings, right, these numbers need to be adjusted. We're going to go through a full breakdown before earnings of JD, Alibaba, and BIDU to see where we stand and to see what could happen in the future. So, if this company comes out and blows out earnings, or if they even meet earnings and they raise forward guidance, it's going to be very bullish for the stock. All right. Let's say the reverse happens and they just miss earnings, but, the guidance is looking optimistic for the future. The stock could consolidate, until the next run up, maybe more stimulus, more positive news globally, so on and so forth. And we might have to wait till the spring earnings, Q2. All right, so Fibonacci numbers, right, could go up to 43.42 on open on Monday or maybe even Tuesday. And zooming out to the max, you see how much more we have to go here, right? So last time stimulus entered the market, it was pretty much straight and up to the right, all the way to the stock got overvalued, right? But if we blow through $43 here, my next Fibonacci line is 58, and then 67, 74, 82. And I'll be providing periodic updates on JD. But right now, things are looking positive. It's tough to stop a moving train once it gets started. And this thing could just speed up, right? You could have entered in here at any point during that COVID run-up and still done pretty well unless you bought all the way here at the top. So I believe we're in probably the second inning here of 9 innings, right? I think this thing could run all the way up to, with positive earnings, 60s, 70s, maybe even $80 in the next 12 months, right? But there's still much to be seen. You need to see earnings. You got to analyze the balance sheet. Let's go look at Baba. They're in a similar space, right? Doing a lot of e-commerce. They're shedding their balance sheet. Some of the waste. Go out to the max. We had a high of 308. Could you believe that back in COVID? Same thing. A lot of stimulus, recession, sell-off, real estate. A lot of fears. Foreign investments pulling out money. All right, so let's go back to the past 3 months, looking very similar, right, to, let's go to the 1 year, right, very similar to JD's, right, that stimulus news in September, stock ran up to 117 and then sold off, right back to actually where it started, 84. So right now, even, you still have a good entry point right here. So recent news, stimulus, stock starting to move again. I have my next Fibonacci line right here at $100 per share again. I wouldn't be surprised if you wake up on Monday and Baba could be even up 5-10% if you get a ton of liquidity. You get a ton of these short positions. They're going to have to either cover or they're going to have to sell their short positions. Folks are going to be buying call options. It's going to cause these market makers to have to buy more stock, right? And you're going to get positive momentum. Again, comes down to earnings in a month. We'll see where they land. We'll see where the forward-looking guidance is. We'll see how their balance sheet is, and we're going to cover all of the past year or 2 years of that for Baba, JD, and BIDU. So looking very good here. Let's zoom out to see where my other Fibonacci numbers are. All right, we'll draw another one from the top. I don't know what happened to my top Fibonacci, but basically, once you pass the 100 or the 96 to the 100, you could quickly run up to the 104, even 120. I could see 120 in 6 months, right? Again, I don't like making these forward-looking statements. RSI is looking hot. So if you break through here, you might see some consolidation of run up to the $9,600 Fibonacci number, and then it's probably going to be another wait for more stimulus, right? And it's going to be a rinse and repeat. And if folks see like, hey, PBOC is not messing around, they're really putting a floor in this market, it could really take off. So you're still in the, like I said, early innings here. Again, it's going to depend where earnings go compared to the big Mag 7 United States companies. This is trading at 1/3 of the price, fairly valued, and we'll see what happens. Let's go to BIDU now. So BIDU is one of those stocks that has been completely beaten down. All right, let's go back to the max. I mean, this thing has been volatile since it IPO'd. All right. Same thing. COVID ran up to 354. A lot of AI news coming out of China right now. This AI infrastructure being built out similar to OpenAI for 1/100th of the price. So pretty interesting there. I'm not going to comment on that in this video. I might save that for another video. But again, this thing ran up to 116 and sold right off after the stimulus news faded in September. And then we go back to the 3 months here, right before my video last week. Again, down in the 70s, low 80s. I dropped my video last week. And then the news started coming in, right? Tariff fears faded. Started injecting stimulus. Rates are going to start to come down. And now you're seeing the pop up. All right, so almost actually hit my Fibonacci line right here of 87, and then bounced off at the close. But there was a big run up on Friday. I believe the stock opened up just up maybe not even 0.5%, 1%, and then raced up. So what that tells me is a lot of shorts having to cover, a lot of investments coming through, call options coming through, creating that gamma squeeze, that momentum, right? And again, could still potentially be in the early innings. RSI still pretty high, not as severe as JD and Bob. I feel like this is the forgotten one of the three. All right, so if it breaks through this 87, it could be a race to 92. Again, on Monday morning, you could see this foreign investment. Maybe the citizens of China start taking their money out of the banks, selling their bonds and starting to buy into assets again because of FOMO, a little bit of FOMO. Again, I would caution you to wait till earnings and see what happens, but tough to argue that they're not making a floor right here with this stimulus news, right? Then it breaks through. If it breaks through the 90s and it breaks through that 94, it could race right back up to where we were in September to 117. So you could see a 30+% move here in the next few months leading up into March, right? If they have great earnings, they beat, they raise guidance, release some new projects, it's kind of off to the races at that point, and then blast through that 117, right? And then, you're looking at a straight run up to 190 plus, and then we'll have to reanalyze from there. But again, JD Baba and BIDU, I'll provide a deeper analysis before earnings here. Let's look at Pinduoduo, Temu app being used here in the United States. This is a newer company, not a lot of data to go off of. All right, we'll draw some Fibonacci lines here and see where that takes us. All right, same thing with the 1 year, right? This is interesting. This is just at $100. All right, and this one would have probably, the tariffs would have affected this company the most. All right, also trading fairly cheap here. And this could open Monday, at 115, 120 and race right up to that Fibonacci line of 125. Again, maybe folks could be expecting more stimulus, and this package wasn't enough. And you could see a retracement this week as well. So it's tough to call. If you're thinking about buying options, the implied volatility on this is usually spiked up right now. And I would just say tread carefully. Hope everybody makes a few bucks. But breaks to that 125 and then it's off to the races, and you could potentially see all-time highs if the PBOC releases a large stimulus package in March. This next earnings, right, not expected to be the best, but now with the tariff fears out of the way, some risk factors are, right, they management definitely assumed that tariffs were coming, so they loaded up the inventory, got it across the world. A lot of it's stockpiled up now, and you could see that the inventory on hand kind of spike up and cause a sell-off, cause some fear that they have too much inventory. If you kind of see a recession in the Western countries, the United States, that inventory could just be sitting there and could be a drag on the balance sheet. So, right, there's always risks in these plays, but we'll see what happens on Monday. You could see a race right up to that 125 Fibonacci, and then if it breaks through there, 144, 159, 174, and then for that to happen, I'd expect we need to see more stimulus. We need to see really good earnings. We need to see positive momentum in Gamma, just like the other three companies we just mentioned. But that's it for the news this Saturday. If you like the video, please punch that like button, subscribe to the channel. Check out my videos from the past. Got a good track record going here. My calls have been spot on if you've been tuned into the channel, and we'll see what happens. We'll break down each of these companies. I'll throw PDD in there as well, Pinduoduo, and we'll look at their balance sheet before earnings and go from there, make our 12-month price targets. And good luck to everybody. Hope you make a couple bucks. Thanks for tuning in. Please check out the other videos on the channel and expect another update this week.